හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Thursday the 7th of December 2023. Federalism or separatism? Foreign Minister Ali Sabri claims Sri Lankans must move away from separatist tendencies. Parliamentarian Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam says no separatism in advocating for federalism. India secure, Sri Lanka secure. The outgoing Indian envoy to Sri Lanka claims that Sri Lanka will be secure as long as India is secure. Highlights that Sri Lanka will be a key beneficiary of the Indian economic expansion.
Security of India and Sri Lanka and the region is mutual and indivisible. When India is secure, Sri Lanka is secure. When Sri Lanka is secure, India is secure.
Drive towards e-mobility. The Cabinet grants approval for the strategic implementation of e-mobility, reveals Minister Bandula Gunawardena. Understanding taxes. Widening the tax net beneficial for the government in the next few years, says economic expert.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to AdaDerana First at 9. I'm Aditya Singh joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now in your top story tonight, Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Counsel Ali Sabri is of the view that Sri Lanka's balanced foreign policy with the international community helped the country to conclude the debt restructuring process to a certain extent and obtain support towards the IMF program. He made these comments while addressing the parliament during the budget debate today. Meanwhile, parliamentarian of the Samaga Jana Balawege, Iran Vikramaratne, highlighted the need to include economic diplomacy in Sri Lanka's foreign policy formulation and added that Sri Lanka should not run away from implementing agreements such as the Millennium Challenge Cooperation and the SOFA agreement. In response, Minister Sabri said Sri Lanka needs a bipartisan foreign relations committee in parliament to ensure that these agreements will not be cancelled following its implementation. Opinions were also shared on the topics of power devolution, federalism and separatism in parliament today.
So Sri Lankan foreign policy on the basis of the instructions given to me and also on the experience of His Excellency the President is friendship to all and enmity to none. I think we have succeeded in this. President Wickremesinghe had been able to talk to many other leaders all over the world, particularly the big powers. He engaged with many leaders in the world and articulated Sri Lanka's vision. I think because we have done that without getting entangled into a pro-country strategy, but standing together as an independent sovereign state, we have got the respect which Sri Lanka richly deserves. As a result of which, we have been able to conclude the debt restructuring to a great extent, get those assurances which are required, and were able to get the IMF first tranche, and I am certain that we will get the second tranche within the next couple of weeks. මම අධිකරණ අමාත්‍යවරයා හැටියට 2020 දී පත් වෙනකොට 400ක් පමණ දෙනා PTA එක යටතේ හිටපු විදේශ කටයුතු අමාත්‍යතුමත් එක්ක එකතු වෙලා අපි ක්‍රමක්‍රමයෙන් මේ සඳහා ක්‍රමවේදයක් සකස් කරලා දුන්නා. පළවෙනි එක තමයි අපි ඇඩ්වයිසරි පැනල් එකක් පත් කරා. අශෝක සිල්වා හිටපු චීෆ් ජස්ටිස් යට. එතුමා ගෙන්නල්ලා බලලා ඇහුවා ඇයි නඩු දාන්නේ නැත්තේ? එක්ක නඩු දාන්න නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලෝ නිදහස් කරන්න කිව්වා. 200ක් විතර එතනින් නිදහස්. ඊට පස්සේ අපි IG ට කතා කරලා කිව්වා මේ PTA එක සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ත්‍රස්තවාදයට සම්බන්ධ දේවල් මිසක අනිත් දේවල් වලට යූස් කරන්න එපා කියලා. So you may remember Professor Pires September 2021 දී සර්කියුලර් එකක් යවුවා. ත්‍රස්තවාදී කටයුතුවලට ඍජුව සම්බන්ධ නැත්නම් මේක යූස් කරන්න එපා කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ අපි ඒක ඇමෙන්ඩ් කරා. ඇමෙන්ඩ් කරනකොට ඔබතුමා ඉදිරිපත් කරේ මම සපෝට් කරා. අපි දෙන්නක හැමෝම මේකට විරුද්ධව ඡන්දෙ දුන්නා. නමුත් මේ ඇමෙන්ඩ්මන්ට් එකෙන් බේල් එකට අවස්ථාව ලබා දුන්නා. හැම දෙනාම අද බේල් වෙලා තියෙනවා. 440 දෙනාගෙන් කී දෙනාද අද ඉන්නේ? එක්කෝ ඒගොල්ලන් චාර්ජ් කරලා තියෙනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලන්ව නිදහස් කරලා තියෙනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලන්ව බේල් කරලා තියෙනවා. එහින්දා if you wait for that perfect law to come, it will never come. But any progress in the right direction should be attained. So therefore, I think I will always stand for a country where all Sri Lankan citizens, irrespective of their race, religion, caste, language, should be part of this governing, should be able to live with dignity And for that, we will continue to make whatever possible contribution. But I will also urge, we must get out of this separatist tendency. A few days ago, we had a beautiful program to talk about the Sri Lankan expatriate community's contribution in another country. A lot of people spoke so well about Sri Lanka, how they want to contribute to the Sri Lankan society. But some representative who represented a particular community was not talking about Sri Lanka or Sri Lankan unity, talking about separatism and the separatist ideals and creating a homeland. Where are we going? Where are we going to, what are we going to achieve? I think that is where we have gone wrong. And as far as our engagement with the UN, Honourable Speaker, we will continue to engage. We have been taking part in what is known as UPR process, Universal Periodical Review. We are going to the Cabinet to establish a sectorial oversight committee within the Cabinet to implement those recommendations which we have adopted. But we will not be bullied by any Western countries who practice hypocritical double standard. We all can see and to tell us how we should run our country. We will never be bullied by that. We'll do what is good for our people in this country.
Take a look at where we are today. We are bankrupt, but we are spending over 15% for defense and public security. That 15% can be diverted to other most important ministries that is crucial for production and export. And you will never be able to do that for as long as you feel, as long as the state feels that the Tamil people are aggrieved. Because you will go on thinking, my God, tomorrow they might take up arms. We are not prepared to give anything. So if these fellows will not just keep quiet, everything that you see that the Tamil people want or say will be seen as hostile, and that is what is happening. We want to commemorate our dead. For you, it is LTT being revived. I insist that this country has to be transformed into a federal state because I feel that's the only way justice will be done. What is the separatism in federalism?
As far as the honourable member's contention with pertaining to federalism, do I think that, just because someone asks for federalism, whether he's a separatist? Certainly not. Even if someone wants a separate state, as long as it's not done in terms of using arms, that person is well within his right. And do we believe, or does this Ranil Wickremesinghe's government believe that, there should be a power devolution? Yes, certainly we believe that there should be a power devolution. At what level? I don't know. That's something which we have to negotiate. I think even if it's federalism, I think we have to have a mechanism to ensure that there's no secession.
I think the Honourable Minister has a very difficult task ahead of him because our country is bankrupt. When the country is bankrupt, it is very difficult to follow a strong economic policy because today we have to go around the world with a begging bowl because we are bankrupt. When we go to the UN, we don't have any respect. They have no regard for us. Now, in addition to the violations of human rights, today we are accused of economic crimes. We have to listen to the big powers because we are going to them with the begging bowl. If we disregard their concerns, we will not get any support from the IMF. That is a sad situation today.
Our foreign policy now must, as a strategy, engage and have economic diplomacy at its core in policy formulation. Sri Lanka must trade with all states for mutual benefit, and we have to maintain our open market strategy. Millennium Challenge Corporation and the status of forces agreement so far. What's really happening on it? How are the negotiations going? Are we concluding? Presently, Singapore is the base for these ships. However, Sri Lanka has the potential to become the regional hub for these ships with suitable international diplomatic trade engagements. Sri Lanka must pursue such international agreements. We don't have to run away.
As far as working with the regional bodies, we have already applied for RCEP and we are working with different countries to get access to the RCEP. There are suggestions that we should explore joining BRICS. We are looking at that. We'll probably go to the cabinet. And I would suggest that there was a good suggestion in the morning from one of the members of the government ranks that Foreign Relations Committee should be established here in the Parliament, bipartisan, to take some of those decisions which are bipartisan. For example, Millennium Challenge and so far and things like that. If one party takes a decision, other party oppose it. So therefore, it's time that we take that on a Foreign Relations Committee and take a policy decision on that, so it will not be changed when government changes or the other things happen.
Now, following more stories on Sri Lanka's foreign relations, the Indian envoy to Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, says that never before has India ever responded to a crisis or supported a country in crisis with the swiftness and strength that it did during the unprecedented crisis in Sri Lanka. Speaking to Indivari Amuwatta during our current affairs program at Hyde Park on AdaDerana 24, the outgoing diplomat in Colombo stressed that Sri Lanka will be secure if India is secure. Expressing his views on the soon-to-be $30 trillion economy which India aspires to be, The High Commissioner pointed out that Sri Lanka will be a key beneficiary of its prosperity as Indian leadership is committed to a stronger bond with Sri Lanka.
India came into Sri Lanka's assistance during the height of the crisis. Sri Lanka-India relations has seen an up and down motion. What challenges did you have to overcome at this stage?
Now I see only up and up. It was quite clear that Sri Lanka and India will be working together after fighting the COVID pandemic as such in order to address the challenges, especially the economic challenges. So the first request that we received from the government of Sri Lanka was about the line of credit for fuel. Around the same time also the $400 million currency swap and the deferment of clearances, which ultimately were close to $2 billion under the Asian Clearance Union, that were also then processed, and another credit facility of $1 billion. So total about $4 billion worth of assistance was processed very quickly. I must mention to you that these things take a lot of time. We were able to do in weeks and days what we normally have or can do in months and years. India has never rendered this type of assistance to any country. You know, the Indian support and Indian assistance does never have strings attached to it. Last year there was an unprecedented situation. The response needed to be effective, efficient, with great speed, not only bilaterally but also in fora like the International Monetary Fund. There was support from India for approving Sri Lanka's program. India was the first country to give the written assurances to IMF, which were required at that time last year before IMF could approve the program for Sri Lanka. And now, of course, as you know, India is not the member of Paris Club, but we co-chaired the Official Creditors Committee, which has now announced a successful understanding on debt restructuring. So India played the role bilaterally as well as internationally to support Sri Lanka. From government of Sri Lanka, we received great cooperation. The leadership in India is very clear and committed to a strong India-Sri Lanka relationship.
The question of China, High Commissioner, especially with the visit of Chinese vessels to India, has been concerned, which is understood. But when it comes to Sri Lanka, what is India's expectation of Sri Lanka?
India and Sri Lanka both are Indian Ocean countries. Indian Ocean region belongs to India, Sri Lanka and countries which are in the Indian Ocean. Ensuring the freedom of navigation, ensuring peace, prosperity and progress is a shared responsibility of India and Sri Lanka. The maritime challenges which arise, the other challenges which arise in modern times, we have to contend those challenges, face those challenges together. That is the requirement, because there can be prosperity and peace when there is security, when there is stability. And ensuring the security of the region in which we both are situated is a shared responsibility. In that sense, I would say security of India and Sri Lanka and the region is mutual and indivisible. When India is secure, Sri Lanka is secure. When Sri Lanka is secure, India is secure.
With Sri Lanka's negotiations in terms of securing financing assurances and debt restructuring, India together with other countries requested that Sri Lanka be transparent with the kind of conditions we work with China. Why is this a concern, and especially does India see that Sri Lanka is either falling into trouble?
Well, don't worry about the trouble. We are here. मैं हूँ ना? The whole process of debt restructuring is essentially based on certain commitments and fundamental principles. In the policy statement with which the government of Sri Lanka had come out, and in that it was mentioned also what will be the parameters of the debt restructuring, what will be included in debt restructuring, what will not be included in debt restructuring, and the fundamental principles of debt restructuring. If there are a few creditors, then none of them should suffer more than the other or benefit more than the other. We call it equitability or comparability of treatment. Now, how can you ensure equitability and comparability? Through transparency. That is, you know what I am discussing and I know what you are discussing.
Where does India want to position itself in the future?
Well, there are certain attributes that we have in terms of geography and demography. We are the most populous country in the world as of now. We are the largest democracy, and India is the 5th largest economy, and soon it will be within the first 3. We are nearing $4 trillion in terms of the GDP size, and in 2047, when we complete 100 years, we aim to achieve $30 trillion, which means in the next 25 years, we aim to add $26 trillion, that is on an average $1 trillion every year. There is a huge opportunity in this for all our neighbors and friendly countries, and we would like the region to grow together, because it is our fundamental belief that the prosperity of the region is in the best interest of India. What is good for Sri Lanka is good for India. So as India grows, as the tide of India's growth comes, it will lift other boats also. And we wish to partner with Sri Lanka, with our other friendly countries, not only in the region, elsewhere in the world, as sovereign equals. We consider the world is family, and in that family, neighborhood is the first.
Now, Minister of Transport and Highways Dr. Bandula Gunawardena highlights that 2024 will be declared Sri Lanka's electric mobility year, adding that the Cabinet of Ministers has granted approval for a strategic plan for the implementation of e-mobility in Sri Lanka. The minister went on to say that the National Electric Mobility Policy will be tabled in Parliament soon.
A consultation meeting on drafting a national electric mobility policy for Sri Lanka was held in Colombo yesterday under the patronage of Minister of Transport and Highways Dr. Bandula Gunawardena.
There may be some regulation, laws amendment with the various institutions and also the technical training. So with the support of all other agencies, including Minister of Finance and President Secretariat, they have to introduce a lot of facilities to encourage in local industries while introducing e-mobility in Sri Lanka.
Various initiatives have been formulated along with studies, researchers to determine the feasibility to initiative electric mobility in Sri Lanka. Initiatives taken by Government of Sri Lanka till date include electric vehicle deployment, development of charging infrastructure, subsidy plan for electric vehicles. But a comprehensive long-term vision for electric vehicle policy was required. When I had the opportunity to connect with Mr. Madan Bandhu from UNESCAP, who accepted my invitation to support Sri Lanka during a policy framework for accelerating the transition of electric mobility for public transport. The policy at national level will show way forward to all the initiative across the country, and it will be help to integrate the standalone efforts to collaborative initiative. The year 2024 will be declared as a e-mobility year in Sri Lanka. The ministry look forward to taking this policy to the implementation phase with the support of all related ministries and private sector stakeholders. In March 2024, we will have an exhibition and a conference to exchange global ideas and showcase all initiatives within our country. For investors to partner and scale up national enterprises. And I look forward for the support of UNESCAP and everyone here today. Sri Lanka Cabinet of Ministers has approved the preparation of a strategic plan to create the background needed to promote the use of electric vehicles. And the policy will also be tabled at the Parliament.
Now in other news, the Health Promotion Bureau reveals that the consumption of food with high concentrations of sugar and salt has increased among preschool children in the country. This was revealed by a survey conducted among preschool children in the Colombo and Kurunegala districts.
මේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ පෙර පාසල් වයසේ දරුවන් 642ක් ඇතුළත් කරගෙන කුරුණෑගල දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ පවත්වන ලද සමීක්ෂණයකින් පෙනී ගිහිලා තියෙනවා. දිනකට නිර්දේශිත එළවලු දෙකක්, පලාවක් සහ පළතුරු දෙකක් කන දරුවන්. මේ දරුවන් අතරේ 120කටත් අඩු බව. ඒ වගේම මේ දරුවන් අතරේ 10%ක් විතර දරුවෝ අධික ලෙස ලුණු සහිත කෙටි ආහාර පාන වලට පුරුදු වෙලා තියෙනවා කියන එකත් මේ සමීක්ෂණයෙන් හොයාගෙන තියෙනවා. එතකොට මෙම කුරුණෑගල දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ මේ සිදු කරන ලද සමීක්ෂණයෙන්ම සොයාගෙන තියෙනවා ඒ දරුවන් අතරේ 60%ක් විතර පැණි බීම බොන්න පුරුදු වෙලා ඉන්නවා කියලා. 2.5%ක් විතර දරුවෝ හැමදාම පැණි බීම බොන්න පුරුදු වෙලා ඉන්නවා. කොළඹ දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ කරන ලද සමීක්ෂණයක පෙරපාසල් දරුවන් 813ක් යොදාගෙන හොයාගෙන තියෙනවා සීනි තේ හැඳි 15ක් පමණ දිනකට පාවිච්චි කරනවා මේ දරුවන් කියලා. එතකොට සාමාන්‍ය නිර්දේශිත ප්‍රමාණය වගේ 5 ගුණයක් විතර මේ දරුවෝ සීනි භාවිතා කරනවා. මේ සීනිත් සරල සීනි ගණයට අයත් වෙන ආහාර තමයි දරුවෝ ලබා ගන්න. ඔබට වැඩිපුරම බිස්කට්, ඒ වගේම බේකරි ආශ්‍රිත නිෂ්පාදන, ටොෆි, චොකලට් සහ පැණි බීම ආශ්‍රිතව තමයි මේ පැණි රස නිවාස කියන දේවල් දරුවෝ ලබා ගන්න. මේ සමීක්ෂණයෙන්ම හොයාගෙන තියෙනවා දරුවෝ පෙර පාසල ඇරිලා ගෙදර යනකොට තමයි වැඩිපුරම මේ ආහාර පාන ගන්න. ඒ වගේම ටීවී එක බලද්දී.
Now, meanwhile, a man was stabbed and killed in Morakatiara over a personal dispute as recent incidents of this nature have seen an increase. In another unfortunate accident, a collision took place in Anuradhapura, injuring 4 individuals as 2 motor vehicles crashed into each other. With that, let's take a look at more developments from across the island in brief.
Following a stabbing incident reported from the Iyalagoda area in Morakatiara, a 30-year-old individual was killed. Investigations revealed that a personal dispute had led to the unfortunate incident. Further investigations into the incident are currently underway. In Wadua, 2 individuals travelling on a motorcycle had reportedly snatched the bag of a nurse who was walking on a by-road. The incident was recorded in a nearby CCTV camera. In other news, an accident was reported from Anuradhapura as 2 motorcycles collided with each other this afternoon. 4 individuals were injured following the accident and were admitted to hospital for treatment. The accident was recorded on a nearby CCTV camera.
Welcome back. Now we take you to your business news. Amid the uptick in Sri Lanka's tourism industry, more airlines are expected to commence flights to Sri Lanka, which will help the island nation to further improve its number of tourist arrivals. UAE's charter flight operator Air Arabia will commence its operations tomorrow, while SkyUp Airlines of the Ukraine will commence its operations from Poland starting from the 18th of December, bringing more Polish tourists to Sri Lanka.
Air Arabia of the United Arab Emirates will commence its flights to Sri Lanka tomorrow by launching a new route directly from Abu Dhabi to Colombo with one-way fares. According to Air Arabia, the airline will operate flights 3 days a week. Meanwhile, Lot Charters, a fully owned subsidiary of Lot Polish Airlines and SkyUp Airlines, are expected to commence flights to Sri Lanka in the near future, bringing more Polish tourists to the island. Lot Charters will operate direct flights from Warsaw to Colombo starting from the 4th of January until the 21st of March next year. SkyUp Airlines, meanwhile, is expected to commence its first direct flight from Warsaw to Mattala on the 18th of December 2023, and for the first time its second and third inaugural flights from the southern Polish cities of Katowice and Rzeszów will land in Sri Lanka on the 22nd and the 25th of December respectively. The operations are expected to continue until the 16th of April 2024. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a surge in Polish visitors to Sri Lanka this winter and spring season are expected due to the increase in direct Polish charter flights from Warsaw and other Polish cities to Colombo and Mattala airports. The Foreign Ministry further said Sri Lanka's standing in Poland as an attractive destination in Asia has substantially increased since August 2021, which resulted in Poland's ranking among the top 10 tourism source countries for Sri Lanka from December 2021 until May 2022.
Now, some economists are of the view that the country will face difficulties in collecting tax revenue in 2024, as the proposed hike in the value-added tax rate is expected to increase Sri Lanka's already high inflationary pressure. Also, economic experts say that the widening of the tax net to include all individuals above 18 years of age will benefit the government in the coming 2 to 3 years, while also bringing stressful living conditions to the general public. To further comprehend Sri Lanka's tax regime in the coming year in the context of its economy, we have Professor J.G. Sri Ranjit in our next segment, Understanding Taxes in Sri Lanka.
I think even if we collect this much of taxes, there is a big challenge the government has regarding the inflationary pressure that we have because of the VAT taxes, and then without increasing the salaries. So this will have a kind of a negative impact on the economy. And then the current economic growth is for 2023 is a minus value. This is the only country that has a minus economic growth in South Asia. Therefore, if this budget does not provide incentives for economic growth, the expectations for the tax in revenues will also be lower, right? So therefore, this will be a challenge for the government in the next year, especially under the IMF agreements. The government will have to increase the tax revenues. But I think according to the tax policy reforms, within the short run, there is a difficulty to make all the necessary necessary reforms for the next year. But in the meantime, the government will have to take these initiatives to increase the VAT and then the tax impositions on formal sector workers, private and state or government. But we know that the necessary reforms should increase the income tax, direct taxes, rather than indirect taxes. So therefore, this tax rates increase further. This will have a negative impact. It comes from two directions. One is that, according to the supply side economics, we know that increasing tax rate will increase the total tax revenues to a certain point up to the tax optimization level. After that, the further increase in the tax rates will decrease the total tax revenue. Now, the government is going to take necessary initiatives to expand the tax base. I think with these initiatives, I think so all the individuals will have to open individual tax files, and then the system will get into the correct track. I think this is a good initiative. If this can be done in the long run, I think we will be able to get out of the economic crisis situation after 2-3 years.
Now in other business news, the Colombo Stock Exchange closed in green today, aided by gains in industrial and consumer staple stocks. The Colombo Stock Exchange all-share price index climbed 0.09% to settle at 10,713.24 points. Expo Lanka Holdings and Ceylon Beverage Holdings were the top gainers on the index, rising 2.46% and 9.62% respectively. Trading volume on the ASPI fell to 14.7 million shares from 29.4 million shares in the previous session. The S&P Sri Lanka 20 meanwhile rose by 0.3% to end at 3,065.45 points. The market's turnover fell to 430.8 million rupees from 700.3 million rupees in the previous session. The banking sector was the top contributor to the market turnover, while the food and beverage and tobacco sector was the second highest contributor to the market. Foreign investors were net sellers of floating stocks worth 51.2 million rupees, while domestic investors were net buyers purchasing shares worth 388.3 million rupees. Now let's take a look into how the rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. Now in your corporate developments, Sampath Bank PLC announced that they are in the process of getting qualified as an authorized entity permitted to engage in offshore banking business in the Colombo port city. Meanwhile, Selinco Insurance PLC announced the appointment of a new director to the company's board of directors. With that, let's take a look into our corporate news segment for the day.
Sampath Bank PLC proudly announced their first step in getting qualified as an authorized person and to be permitted to engage in offshore banking business in and from the area of authority of the Colombo Port City by receiving the authorized person's license from the Colombo Port City Economic Commission and securing the certificate of registration as an offshore company from the Registrar General of Companies. This is the first milestone after the receipt of Monetary Board concurrence in 2022 for the issuance of a banking license to engage in business under the Colombo Port City Economic Commission Act No. 11 of 2021. Selinco Insurance PLC announced that the company has appointed Kapila Prasanna Ariyaratne to the board of directors with effect from the 6th of December 2023 in terms of Section 8 of the listing rules of the Colombo Stock Exchange. In its corporate disclosure released today, the company stated that the newly appointed director Ariyaratne does not have any relevant interest in shares issued by the company as of the date. Hunas Holdings PLC meanwhile announced that the company's annual general meeting for the year 2023 was held yesterday as scheduled. The company also disclosed that all resolutions indicated in the notice previously issued on the 10th of October 2023 were adopted by the shareholders.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of AdaDerana First at 9. Thank you. Have a great night.